Welcome back to another text explication video on Pirkei Avot. We are now on the second text in the third chapter. What's kind of amusing about this second text is actually taking two different sayings from two totally different rabbis on two totally different topics, and somehow they got smushed together. So I'm going to briefly deal with the first saying in the second text, and then move on to the remainder. So we first get Rabbi Hanina, the vice high priest, also in Hebrew, Rabbi Hanina Sigan HaKohanim. He's the Sigan HaKohanim, the Sigan of priests, the vice high priest. He said, "Pray for the welfare of the government, for were it not for the fear it inspires, every man would swallow his neighbor alive." Now, what's interesting about this is that it breaks from the tripartite, the three-part aspect of the sayings that we have seen predominate really the first two chapters, and even for that matter the previous text in the third chapter. So he says, pray for the government. Pray for the government. Pray because were it not for the fear of them, or their fear, everybody would swallow their fellow alive. Now, it doesn't, I have to point out here, it doesn't literally mean that cannibalism would erupt. It's not that people are literally swallowing their neighbor. They're not eating them. That's. I just want to make that clear, because I know one of you has asked me in recent weeks about this particular saying, this particular text, and I'm here to clarify. Rabbi Hanina Sigan HaKohanim, the vice high priest here, is not trying to talk about the lack of a government would cause cannibalism. That is not what this is about. This is literally just maybe taking over their property, maybe taking over, doing what they would like to. I don't know. It would lack civil structure, basically, if it weren't for any particular government. Now, this is fascinating because it's not advocating any particular government at all. It's actually being quite, it really, Rabbi Hanina here is saying, it doesn't matter what type of government or government structure, they provide stability of whatever type. And if we wanted to contemporize it, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about, socialism or communism or this or that or what. He doesn't. It doesn't matter to him because it provides civil stability. Okay. Now we're moving into something totally vastly different. We now get Rabbi Hanina. So that was one Rabbi Hanina. That was Rabbi Hanina Sigan HaKohanim, the vice high priest. Now we get a different Rabbi Hanina, Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion. So I think that's the one connection, is that they share the same first name. That's it. Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion says, "Two who ate together and there are no words of Torah between them. This is a session of scorners, as it is said from the very first line in the very first psalm. Nor sat one in the seat of the scornful, rather the teaching of the Lord is one's delight. However, if two sat together, and there are words of Torah spoken between them, then the divine presence abides amongst them, as it is said." And this is quoting from the prophetic work of Malachi in the third chapter in the 16th verse. "Then they that feared the Lord spoke one with another, and the Lord hearkened and heard, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared the Lord and that thought upon his name." That's the end of that scriptural verse. And now he continues. "Now I have no scriptural proof for the presence of the divine presence, except among two. How do we know that even one who sits and studies the Torah, the Holy One, blessed be he, fixes one's reward?" Okay, interesting. "As it is said," and this is quoting from the book of Lamentations, from Echa, the third chapter, verse 28. "As it is said, though he sits alone and meditate in stillness, yet one takes a reward unto oneself." Okay, there's a lot going on. This is so vastly different from the first part of this text, right? The Rabbi Hanina, vice high priest, is a really short one-liner. This is a lot more going on from this other Rabbi Hanina, son of Tradion. But what he's saying is, even when two Jews get together, and it sounds like they are particularly eating, right? He says, "Shnaim shiyoshvin vein beinehem." They're just sitting. You're hanging out. There are two Jews getting together and no Torah. Now, look, the truth is, he knows, we know, Jews get together all the time in whatever numbers, even just two. Do we always speak Torah? The answer is obviously not. That does not happen. But one thing that has remained a dominating theme, an overarching theme, even if it's not present in every text, but a common theme that connects a lot of the texts within Pirkei Avot, is the overwhelming value of Torah study, speaking about Torah, learning it. These are the ways, this is the lifeblood of our people. And what Rabbi Hanina, son of Tradion, here is advocating is when two Jews get together, they should discuss Torah. They should discuss what it is that, what keeps our identity alive as Jews. And now he resorts, of course, to the book of Psalms, but then he goes further, as if that was not enough. He says, two's great. What about even just one? What about when one? Now, obviously, it's not, when one person is just around, it's not, one has different things in their lives that they need to handle. But he says, what happens when is sitting and endeavoring in Torah, is involved in Torah study? Then even there, the Holy One, blessed be He, establishes reward for that person. So that's really nice. That he's really going for a bare minimum, but when one, that's the best. One will get rewarded. Now this connects back to what we saw towards the end of chapter 2 about reward for one's endeavoring in holy purposes. So nice connection. Now, just as a sneak peek, tomorrow's text that we're going to deal with is from a totally different rabbi, but a very similar theme here. I presume that is why it follows. It's going to be very similarly themed. So that is the second text here in the third chapter, and thank you so much for watching.